Good morning, Lafayette. It is your weather forecaster, Brian Burden, meteorologist here from the great state of Indiana, where we all like to reside, or at least most of us that are watching today, anyway. It looks like we got some really good news on tap for us today. A lot of things happened over the weekend we're going to talk about. Lots of weather to talk about, as usual, this time of the year. And we're just going to kind of get into it the best we can as we go through, as we always do. We start off with weather, of course. That's the first thing we want to talk about. We got a big basketball game that happened on Saturday. We got a big basketball game happening tomorrow night that we'll talk about. We'll talk about some of the local happenings around the area, and we'll just talk about a little bit about everything. That's why it's called Let's Talk Lafayette. Go ahead and chat with me if you'd like, and we'll try to answer some questions if we can. We'll get some play back and forth, and we'll just go for it. We're just going to dive in is what we're basically going to do. I got a couple little changes here or there. I'm interested to see how they pan out and what they look like. For instance, we're going to go to weather first, right? That's one of the obvious things, but I've kind of changed up the board. Look at this. Look at that. A little Let's Talk Lafayette on there, huh? Not bad. And then we go ahead and switch it over to here. Now, unfortunately for me now, I don't get to really see what it looks like, but hopefully you're being able to see exactly that little Let's Lafayette on there. Let's Talk Lafayette, and you'll be able to see some of the numbers and everything still pretty easily on the front of that as we go through the day today. We're going to start off this morning. It is a comfortable 35 degrees. And I say comfortable because, of course, 35 is generally about the high for this time of the year. Although we're now, middle of February, 36, 37 might be about the average high for this time of the year. Don't have all the numbers jammed into my head, but we're starting to climb out of that range of the low 30s for our highs. Matter of fact, let's go down to that bottom chart down here and see what it says for today. Today it says the average low is generally 39. So there we go. All right, not too bad, really. Or excuse me, 21. I read the wrong one. Daily low is 39 so far today. Historical daily low is 21, with a high at only being 38. So we're already at the high temperature. And when we look at this chart, we can already get a good sense of what's going on. We saw our big cold back in December, and then we had some ups and downs in January. Very big cold, middle of January all the way to the middle of February. Now we're warming up again. Then there's a little cold and warm. And what I notice here is the big trend difference here is it looks a lot warmer than it did just last week when it was showing some warming trends, but some big drop. And I've seen several charts already this morning showing us the potential for big drops in the temperature. Look out what's coming in February. One even showed the polar vortex again this morning. Stop clicking on those. Just come to me and talk to me about it. I'll give it to you straight away, exactly what I see and what I don't see. I got a couple little cool things here. I hope they work here. I'm going to try to use these like this. Look at this. Oh, look at that. 57, that kind of thing. I got to be a little leery. 69 on Wednesday. Now that is an actual change. Just an hour ago, it said 70 on there. But again, this is model data. This is going to vary. This is the data that I'm talking about for the chance for us to maybe get to 70 degrees. The big screen said 70 on it. Hopefully that drew you in a little bit. And last week I told you there would be a potential for us to get to 70 this week, possibly. But 60s were almost a guarantee, and it sure looks like it all week this week. Today, tomorrow, upper 50s, near 70 on Wednesday. Thursday in the 60s again. All these days, great slingshot weather to get out there and drive around on my slingshot, your motorcycle, maybe get out and do some outdoor activities around the house. Those will be some great days there, at least in store. So this is kind of the canned data of what we're looking at, where you see really no big temperature. Look at this, 35 degrees there, 30 on that spot right there on Friday morning is about the best you're going to be able to see, or the worst you're going to see. As we pan out a little bit and we start to look at the frontal systems and we start to look at different stuff, the first thing we have to worry about this morning is the fog, obviously, in the area. Let me see if I can turn this off and then go back to the fog. And the fog is over all of the eastern half of, about the Midwest, it seems like at this point. Let's get there. Stop pushing too many buttons. There we go. There's Indiana. All right. Put it right smack dab in the middle. Here's a dense fog advisory, and it's valid till 10 a.m. Visibility 1/4 mile or less in dense fog. And this easily can lead to accidents, especially on your interstates where people are traveling very quickly. Portions of central, east central, north central, western. It's just about everywhere in Indiana and Ohio right now. Low visibility could make driving conditions hazardous. If driving slow down, use your headlights and leave plenty of distance ahead of you between you and the guy in front of you. That's a definite thing that we got to keep an eye on as we go through today. Let's take a look at some of the cameras around the area. Here we go, all the way up to State Road 18 on the interstate, and you can barely see anything there. You can see it looks like one semi going by. And not much else at this point. We come down to 43. It's a little bit better. This would be junction 231 right there. So it looks a little better there, but still you only got a couple hundred meters at the most, a couple hundred yards tops on visibilities. There's the other side of 231. You can see it, and there it is, pretty consistent there. A little bit farther on the visibility looking that direction. And it looks like you got at least a quarter mile to a half mile on that direction there. And then as we go towards Remington, it looks a little better farther up towards the north. So there you go on those fronts, way up to the north. Now let's come back down towards us. Here's State Road 43. And while there's no cars, well, there's one blurring right through there. Looks like you got about 100 to 200 meters visibility in the area around State Road 43 and I-65. And then there's this oddity. Now, of course, it just sometimes you get these spots, these lulls, right? Look at the sun is shining through right here on State Road 25 and I-65, and you can see very well. No problems. So sometimes you get those. And I'll bet right where the river is, right up in here, it gets real dense right in that pocket, just past the river all the way back up to 43, because I believe this is looking back towards the north and northwest. Yeah, it is. So that's the State Road 25. Very quiet and calm there right now. Their visibility is really good. But this is the time of year where you would drive into something very easily. You go from that great visibility to this over at State Road 26, and you can barely see not even 100 meters or close to 100 meters right there to a quarter miles at best. It looks like around State Road 26. And then you go a little bit farther to south, State Road 38, and notice this up. I think this is a little bit higher spot in the county, and it's kind of almost above some of the fog and how much moisture is around the area here too. The river's back down towards State Road 43 and 26 and 25 back that way. So there's more moisture on the ground there. I see lots of sunshine up above. Look at that. Just some high cirrus clouds up above. But generally speaking, not too bad down near State Road 38 currently. And then back down on State Road 28 now towards Frankfort, looking really clear down there at the moment. Not too bad. This was better than what it looked like about a half hour ago when I first looked at the charts. So you can see there is some variance in it, but definitely keep an eye out. There you go, State Road 26, again, very dense fog there. State Road 25, not too bad, but then State Road 43, very dense again. So watch out for that this morning for at least another hour, maybe even longer. But it seems like the quicker the sun gets up on the horizon, gets above the horizon, gets beating down on the fog, we actually call it burning it off. We burn the fog off. It's actually an evaporative process that goes through because the sun beats on the top, warms it up, that evaporates it out, and then the fog falls apart. Very common when I was on the West Coast, we had fog off the coast. I know a lot of people think, hey, Los Angeles, California is great, but we had this months in May and June. We called them May gray and June gloom, where excuse me, that the clouds would come in on the coast every single day for almost 2 months straight. But we knew by the thickness of how thick the clouds were, how long they would last. And that was pretty good that it worked that way. But we would go a week or two at times without seeing the sunshine there in May and June in Southern California when I was out there in the Marine Corps. All right, so we've got plenty of fog around. We know we've got the warnings. We don't really have a lot of weather around weather-wise for us. Let's take a look at the country itself as a whole. And when we look at it, what we can see is this right here. Big old high right in the central portion of the country, or the eastern half, controlling everything. Lots of really good weather right in this area and this region, and we are part of that with Lafayette being right up about there. There you go. So there's where Lafayette is. And, of course, anywhere from about Maine all the way over to the Rocky Mountains looks pretty quiet. There's probably not much for precipitation until you get way up here into Michigan, a little bit there, maybe a little bit of clouds here, but a lot of this just looks like a lot of the cirrus streaming off of the mountains. We'll have to see on that. The Rockies are right in there. And then, of course, then you go down to the Gulf Coast. I know a lot of people have been heading out there for vacations, and it's gorgeous down there right now. You can even see an offshore flow. You don't see that very often. offshore flow and some low clouds along the coastal sections of Alabama and Mississippi. And you can pick up the dense fog pretty easily right in here. Watch how it gets darker in there. See that? And you're starting to pick up the fog dissipating out in places and popping up in other places, depending on the time of the morning it is. Let's zoom in a little closer for us and see what we can find out and see if we can get in. I don't think we're going to pick up a lot here. We're going to see a lot of just gray. Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing on this. Just a lot of gray is what we're seeing. A little bit of high clouds coming in from the west. Lafayette's right there. And just enough gray because of the fogginess that is just not much picking up. And I don't think we have a really good visual yet, but let's go to the first visual and see what we can find. See if we can pinpoint some of the fog on the ground there real quick here this morning. Let's go to the day cloud phase. And what I'm starting to see is a little bit of shadows from some clouds here or there. There's the higher clouds starting to pick up just a little bit. It looks like you can still see some snow back on the ground back in Ohio. But in our area yet, just not enough sun angle yet to really show much on the ground to really pinpoint anything. So another half hour or so, we'll take a look back at this and see what it looks like and see if we can pick up just a little bit more on that front. So let's get into the models, right? Now we've taken a look first at what the whole big picture of the United States looks like. Now let's take a broad picture at what the Midwest looks like, okay? So here's the Midwest. Here's Lafayette. Bam, right smack dab in the left center of, we'll call it upper left center of Indiana. I don't know what they like to call it specifically, north central Indiana. I don't know about that. All I know is Lafayette is right about there where the finger is pointing to. And we don't have anything on here. There's just nothing happening on this system at all. There is no real. Remember, I said there's a big old high, right? So if I go over here and I draw in the high right here, boom, 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 right? So there's the high. We can see that. Matter of fact, you can see the little spot where they've kind of put the high at, right there, just down around Kentucky. Nashville is just to the south of that, Illinois, Indiana, right in there. That's where the high is. The flow is coming around the system this way now, right? Remember, the flow is going to be coming around the high that way. And there's just nothing out here. Well, if there's nothing out here to pull into us, we're not going to worry too much about any weather coming in. And we already saw that on the satellite picture. There are the couple showers. Remember, I said there might be some up there to the north. There they are up over northern Lake Michigan. At least the model says there should be something there. And I'm sure if we pop the radar, we probably see something up there. But generally speaking, that's where things should be, at least this time frame, it looks like. So now let's put everything into motion a little bit here, right? And what we're going to see is just not much. That system moves along towards the north. The low is right about here. There'll probably be another low develop out towards the west here over the next couple days, as the high pressure system is still kind of keeps us in control. And I noticed the gradient right here when you kind of go ahead and show it, right? So the high over here is pulling moisture up this way, right? We've talked about this before. So the high is over here clockwise. If you kind of extend it out, it goes like that, clockwise, right? But the low is counterclockwise, right? When you extend it out this direction, you see all these isobars together like this, these close lines like that. They're called isobars. These dashed lines right through here are called iso heights, and it tells you how thick the atmosphere is. The thicker the atmosphere, the colder it could be, so on and so forth, right? Different what you'll see. We look for things like the 540 line, which I've told you about right there, which generally means over here on this side, right, it's cold, right, on this side, and on this side it's warm, and that's usually where we look for snow or ice. Well, for us right now, it's dead quiet. There's just nothing. We're seeing the flow come up. This means these folks here out in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, it's going to get warm out here, right, because we've got all this flow coming up from the south. We're also starting to pick up moisture right here. All right, coming from the Gulf is going to start picking up, and that's going to want to head itself back up through the next day or two, and we'll see what happens and develops with that. But this is tomorrow morning already, right? And while there's no weather in us or around us at this point, we are going to see an advancement of that moisture coming up. There it is. This is the hourly basis. Look at this tomorrow at around 10 o'clock. At around 10 o'clock, there's a chance for just a couple sprinkles. This is very light. Don't expect a lot out of this at all. This is your sprinkly activity, very light shower here or there. That's about it. And it's very spotty, as you notice, kind of like a shotgun out there. It's not going to hit everything, but a couple spots will get a pretty decent rain. But then look at our flow still. and we go back to it and try to kind of see where our flows are, the high is now shifting off towards the east, right? But our flow is still coming up from the south. Now, the flow here is tapped into Oklahoma, but the flow over here is tapped into the Gulf of America, right? I almost said Mexico there. And there's a low pressure system up here. All right. So the low is up here. Now the low is going to want to go across like this, but it's going to pull up all this moisture. Eventually, it's going to tap right into it. And what you'll see is it's dry over here, and then it starts tapping into moisture into this area, which is being drawn up from the Gulf of America. So on Wednesday, so this is Tuesday evening, right? Now we're going to head towards Wednesday now on this. All right. Watch how it grows a little bit. See that? Look at that. There's a chance that would be 1Z. Okay. So now we're talking about 8 o'clock Tuesday night. So tomorrow evening, chances for a light shower in the area. That doesn't look real heavy. That's the good news on that front. And then look at how we're starting to pick up moisture back out towards our west, right? Iowa's now starting to pick it up. This is where the frontal system itself is. So think of this as the runway of everything coming in, pulling in all that moisture and all that. Think of this as the ramp, right? So what happens if you shoot water at a ramp and it hits a bump in the ramp, right? It's going to shoot it straight up in the air, right? So this is an uplifting technique where the frontal system is, and that creates the potential for clouds, showers, that kind of activity. So think of it that way, as a bump that pushes the sky up, and it pushes moisture up, which creates more clouds and more showery activity and the possibility of rain. And we see that kind of stick with us there. So here we are again. Let's go back to right there. That's 8 o'clock in the evening, right? There's 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. And we've got some scattered showers still around us. We had a little maybe brief shower around 7 or 8. It looks like timing wise, at least on this, at very widely scattered spotty showers, a couple little spots here or there where there could be like a little line of showers that develop during the evening tomorrow night. There we are at 1 in the morning. This is midnight. Now there's 1 o'clock. We still have scattered showers around us. What's the good news here? Well, it's nighttime, right? So our temperature contrasts are much less. The atmosphere is not full of as much energy as it is like during the summer or late spring when we see that, one side is 40 degrees, the other side is 80 degrees. And we have these two kind of battling against each other, the 40 and 80, and the 80s wanting to climb above the 40 and get above it. That we're not seeing that, but we are seeing that exact type scenario, just with temperatures much closer to each other. So we still think there's some potential for a shower or two out towards the Mississippi River here tomorrow evening. That'll be around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then notice how it drags along behind it, right? Behind the system. That's where the cold front is. And then it kind of pushes through. This is 5 o'clock in the morning. We still have scattered showers, and there's a little line of maybe a little thicker showers. I don't think we're talking actual severe weather here with this. Could we get a clapper thunder or two out of that? Sure, we could. Sure, we could. But potential right now looks to be more like just some showers at this point. Matter of fact, let's just pop the convective real quick here, and I will change it over to lightning density. And what does it say? It doesn't show anything around us at that time frame. Matter of fact, doesn't show any lightning density anywhere. So a very calm system, at least at this point. I always like to use lightning. It just kind of gives me just a rough indication of what's going to happen. So let's take a look at those temperature contrasts and what we're talking about. So here we are this morning. Right here we are at 10 o'clock. It's roughly 39 degrees, and the current temperature right now is 37, just to give you a heads up on what the actual temperature is right now. And so we're heading towards that 39 right there. We still see our flow around the high pressure system. Nothing's changed there. We're already seeing warm air popping up out into Kansas, Iowa, into southern Wisconsin already, starting to see 40s. And this is very warm for them, right? If our low temperature is generally somewhere down around 20, all right, and our high is generally 38, and we're already at that, this is warm weather for this time of the year. All right, so we're already at that here at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then as the day climbs on today, it's going to get pretty nice out there temperature-wise. Look at that. We're into the 50s already, 56. We still see the big flow coming in from the southwest and out to our west, warming everything up very nicely. And so I want to zoom in a little closer here. Let's take a little closer look at this, right? So we can see the numbers. Here's Lafayette right there. Pretty easy to see, right? Look at the 60s, 65 all the way up into central and north central Illinois, 63 in Chicago. Remember that it's pretty warm there. It's going to be warm there. All this warmth is being dragged in slowly towards us. We've still got some cold kind of left over. It's not the below zero cold like we saw weeks ago, but there's still some cold there. The fog is on the ground, creating a little bit chillier temperatures, not as much fog out towards the west. And so they're opening up and they'll get to the sun and they'll start warming up. As soon as that sun pops out, we're going to warm up. So when I see 55, 56 on here, like I'm seeing here, with 59, 60 up near Rensselaer, not very far away, I'm thinking there's potential for us to get to 60 today. Very strong possibility this afternoon. At the very least, off because it's been so cold. If you've probably noticed yourself, even when it's 40 out, it's feeling warmer. So if we hit 55 today, you're going to probably feel like it's 60 on your own anyway, although there is a bit of a wind. That's the draw that you take with this, right? The changes you see a lot of times with warm temperatures in the spring is you are going to see a stronger wind. So it's 70, but the wind is 20 knots. It's going to feel a bit colder, right? So that's what you do. That's the give and take. To get warmer, you have to have stronger winds, and then that takes some of your temperature away. But still, shows a high of 55 on the HER today, a high of 55, with 60s like literally within 20 to 40 to 50 miles of us. So very close. We'll be very close to 60, I think, this afternoon, especially if the fog clears out here really quickly and we get into the sunshine pretty nicely this afternoon, which does look like we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of high clouds, but we're going to see plenty of sunshine too. And then tomorrow morning, we're just dropping back down to around 36 or so, a little pocket of some openness there where it's a little chillier. Nothing major here. These are our highs for this time of the year, so we're not complaining. And then tomorrow we start to warm right back up. But you notice here, it shows us this kind of hanging a little colder than today, right? Probably it shows about 5 degrees difference in this. And this is going to be cloud cover tomorrow, right? Because you've got all this warmth. Now look where the warmth is going. It's now directing itself up towards uh, Iowa, right? Instead of towards Chicago where it was today. All right. So today it's coming this direction. Tomorrow it's going that direction a little more. And we've gotten out of the loop of the southwesterlies, at least for the early portions, right? But then as the frontal system gets closer, then it's going to start warming itself back up. And look what happens tomorrow evening. We're still like 45 to 50 degrees, right? With that system coming in on top of us. And then by the time we get to Wednesday morning, here you go, 8 o'clock Wednesday morning, 7 o'clock, it's still 50, 51 degrees, right? So it's going to be pretty warm that day on Wednesday. And we're going to get just warmer and warmer on Wednesday afternoon. So the front's not going to have a big punch on the cold towards us at all. But here's what it looks like. Let's see how far out this one will go. If the 12Z run will take us out past that point. So what is it saying today? It's saying 54. There you go. 58. Same thing. The really close to 60 degrees, close to us. The pull is in the exact same area, right up towards Chicago. But the NAM is saying it's going to be just a little bit colder. So there you go. 55. Potential tonight just drops to 36, 35, comes back up to during the day tomorrow. How far out is this thing going to go today? And it's not quite going to get out far enough for us on this. So let's go back one model run and see what it says. Now there's a little pocket of the 52 on Wednesday, and watch what happens on Wednesday. Boom, 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 right in there. We are going to be getting pretty warm in this period right here. Now this is from 6 hours ago, the model is. And we're going to get pretty warm right here in this spot. This is the spot Wednesday afternoon where we could see some of these 70s be pulled up into us, and the potential will be there for that. Now, that's the NAM. The NAM says about 57. Let's see what the European model, right? Oh, look at the European model. It says 65 for the same time frame. 65 degrees, and see if it varies any. 66. So it's in the upper 60s, right? So you can see how easily we could pull this 70 degrees down here by Terre Haute up towards us pretty easily on Wednesday afternoon. And I'm sure a lot of you would like to see the first 70-degree temperature of the year. So there'll be potential on Wednesday. No guarantees yet, but we'll keep an eye on that one too. And then we cool back off a little bit, nothing major, but we're back close to 60 on Thursday, and more of the same On Friday, we're a bit colder because the next little system kind of sweeps through and then reinforces the cold. Look at the temperature change out towards our west, right? You see that out there now on Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, and then a quick reinforcing shot. So what I said is, if you read earlier on my Facebook page and stuff with talking about, do we believe the groundhog or not? Well, of course, it looks like spring is going to pop when we do this, but we are still going to see ups and downs and ups and downs. That's what spring is all about. Lots of changes. And while we're technically still in winter, we're in a nice warm stretch, but we're going to see some of these down swings. Okay. So don't be surprised by those at all. But the general overall look for long range is warm, is warmer than normal. And if you remember, just last week, it was saying that everything was going to crash at the beginning of the month in March. And it doesn't look like that now. So that's why you got to hold on to these things and not take too much into them and believe too much that you're going to see with those long range forecasts, especially at this point. So that's what it kind of looks like, at least on that front. Good morning, Ray. Let's talk Lafayette. He's on there talking to us. Good to see you this morning, Ray. And glad you're clicked in here. And he's trying to see what's going on. And Ray's big on the basketball this time of the year, and he wants to know what the weather's like. He's trying to get out and do some walking and stuff with him, and Raj are doing that, and some of the guys. Maybe I'm going to join him one of these days when these knees are working pretty good. We'll have to see how that goes. But right now, it's good to see that Ray's in there, clicked in and talking to us. All right, so let's get back to the temperatures and what we're talking about. Okay, so what we didn't look at, and let's look at the GFS real quick. Okay, this is the GFS, which is your long range forecast. And it's showing, there you go, near 70, pretty warm. And then here comes the shot. So there's some kind of frontal system that's going to come through. Looks like early Friday morning into Saturday, right? And then it's going to reinforce some cold for a day or two. And then look at this. We get back into the 20s again for a while. And then we're going to start warming back up. And as we get farther and farther out, it's looking, there it is. There's some warmth again. But most of these temperatures are still above normal for this time of the year. And we're back into the 50s. Look at that. Oh, look, what is that day? That's March 3rd. Now we're talking 70s into the 80s potential. But again, so far out, we can't trust anything. All right, so let's look at the big picture back out a little bit of the Midwest on that. We see the flow that's there. Now let's take a look at what the actual precipitation might be involved with that on this long range forecast. All right, so here we are on Wednesday. We see that little system bump through on Wednesday evening. We push it back out. You see our flow again. And when you look at our flow, the flow is the same kind of flow down to the south. It's like this. Look at that. Your flow is along those lines. Out here, it's going this way. And then you have a low pressure system to the north cutting across, right? And we're kind of going to get caught in the open area again for a while, it looks like, at least on this front. All right. So now we go through that system. It comes through. We see a pretty good low pressure system develop Thursday into Friday. That's the one that's going to bring and reinforce the cold back in here. And we're going to look at this one pretty close here, right here for a second or two. Let me see if I can draw on this one a little bit. Okay, so we have a low right here, right? There's your low. That's one low. Then you have some kind of trough coming out in front. Normally we would call this a warm front out to this spot here, right? And then we have a spot that curls like this. So where they cross each other, the warm front and the cold front cross each other, this is an occlusion, right? And what we look for is another low to pop up somewhere in that area where that triple point is. We call this a triple point right there and right there, right? So that's the occlusion. The warm front extends out, and then the cold front is back right through here, it looks like. And then you have another low, right? And that's your main low right there. And then there's another secondary trough kind of spinning around the back here. That's what this moisture is that you're seeing there. Okay, so this is a very well-developed system that comes through. This would be Thursday night into Friday right now. This is 3Z on Friday, so Thursday night into Friday is where it's looking at. We see good news here. Your snow line is way back to the north still, so this is all rain right now, right? We didn't see any real cold temperatures in there anywhere when we were looking at the temperatures and what they were going to do for us anyway, right? So let's move it forward, watch the system go, and then see the 540 line right here, the solid blue line. Look how it kind of dives down, which is telling you here comes some cold air, right? And the low just continues to go off to the north. If you watch this, look how slow moving this is. This is Friday, Saturday. Now we're still Friday, and now we're still Saturday. And now we're going to start getting a flow coming in from the north around the backside of the low. So here it is on Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. It's only to Michigan, basically, although most of the weather is far off to our east and down towards our south with the system, and then it's going to filter in some cold temperatures behind it. And here's a big old high that's going to try to dig in for a day or two, which will reinforce the cold too. Maybe a little bit of rain. Okay, this is one we'll have to watch out for. This will be Sunday morning, 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. And this has some potential for some snow there that we would have to keep an eye on right now. I can see my 540 line much farther south than Lafayette, which is right here. And that means all this in here could be some snow. We'll have to keep an eye on that one Saturday night, see how it comes up. It juts up. So this system right here, and when I draw on it a little bit here, you see the low right here, right? It's gathering all this moisture up down here to the south near the Gulf of America. It's pulling it all up and around, right? And we're getting this spot back here around the backside of the low where a secondary trough could be. You might even pin it back here, right? And that's where the potential, where the snowfall, which the 540 line cuts through right about here on this chart, that's at 10 o'clock Saturday night, right? So 10 o'clock snows on Saturday night for the beginning, it looks like potential on that. And we go back, yeah, just in 3 hours. And then there it is. Now we are on the very northern edge of this, 1 in the morning, and then 9Z, and then 12Z, which is 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And then it stops and it's gone, right? Now let's take a look at precipitation amounts with that. What kind of snowfall could we see out of that? In the 24 hours, it does show some potential for some snowfall there. So this is what's fun about spring and what I like about spring. Here we are, maybe 65 to 70 this week on Wednesday, and then a couple days later we're talking about snow already, right? Not a bad deal. It's kind of the fun things about weather, to see all these different happenings that can happen. And look at this, 4 inches of snow potential down near Indianapolis. For us, it looks like about a half an inch at this point. That this is over a 12-hour period. So, and it looks like it wants to start around 10 o'clock Saturday night, and it goes till, when does it stop there? It looks like about 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and you're just talking flurries left over after that, and then it moves on. So that's pretty good there. And then do we see any more real snows come through anytime? No, not on the long range anyway at this point. So let's go back to that system right there. Let's switch back to some of our types. There we go. And then you can see the snow on there pretty easy with that, right? You can see the band. So, and what's the other thing we have to watch out for this time of the year? Ice. Who mentioned the ice yesterday? Somebody at church mentioned the ice yesterday. I don't know if it was Ray or who it was, but somebody mentioned ice yesterday. Always something we have to keep an eye on. So there you go. Hey, Evelyn and Josiah, say hi. All right. See you guys. How's it going? Papa's here. Hello, everybody. Josiah, Evelyn. All right. Ray, Craig, Karina. We got them all in there. All right. Good this morning. Awesome to be able to talk to everybody. Ray's loving the warmer weather, he says. That's nice. Isn't it nice how we can get in on these chats like this? It's fun when you can do that kind of thing. All right, so let's keep an eye on some ice in there potential too. This is not a huge system, but what if it just moves a little bit to the north, right? Remember how the last system varied over the days? What is it now? Monday? So we have 6 days to watch this. This could easily be farther north by the time we get to Sunday. Saturday into Sunday, when the system gets closer to us, it could vary in its time frame, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little farther north or a little farther south. But it looks like some kind of system will pass to our south during that time frame later in the week, over the weekend into Monday. And it'll reinforce the cold for a couple days, right? And we can see this here. We see nothing after that, though. This is all the way out to Tuesday. Tuesday, no precipitation after that. Then there's a quick little clipper system moving by. But what I start to see is the flow starting to do this again, right? We're starting to get back to where we were. A low passes to our north. We're going to start warming up. We can kind of see the flow around the system pretty well. And what you're going to see is this right here, right? Okay, it's not tapped into the warmth down to the south yet, but it is tapping into warmer temperatures in Kansas, and it'll eventually come towards us, and we are right here, of course. It's kind of cool. It'll look like a little bunny Did you see the little bunny, Evelyn? uh, some snows to the north with these clipper systems right now that come through pretty quickly. The only thing that I have problems with so far on the little drawer there is trying to figure out how I can move the screen without losing my drawing capabilities. I haven't figured out all the little prompts yet. We'll have to figure that out, but I'll just keep clicking the buttons till now. There we go. We got another little system next week and Thursday. Looks like there's something that'll be rumbling through, mostly rain for us right now. But then there's another quick. So, right, one system goes through. Here we are this week. I'm going to go back a little bit. Here we are. We're warm, 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 warm. Boom, the system goes through, cools us off for a few days. Then we start to warm back up and we're okay. We're nice and warm above normal. Boom, another quick little system goes through. And then we cool off again next Friday. And then here we are going to start climbing back up temperature wise again as we get into the following week. And it's warm again. And then at the end, I see some more cold coming back down. And you're saying to yourself, well, how do you see that? And I'm looking at the 540 line more than anything else. But when we go and play with the temperatures and we kind of look at it again, you're going to see that pretty easily in this bigger picture. So here's the warmth, right? Look how warm those temperatures are for a few days. This is Thursday, Friday. Man, there's a shot of cold, comes in for a little bit. Nothing major there. Stays chilly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? There's Wednesday. Wednesday starts warming back up again. Now we're pushing temperatures up near the 40s and 50s again. And then there's another little shot of cold. See, this is very typical for spring. And then there's some warmth again next weekend and real warm the weekend right there, Saturday and Sunday again. Man, was that 70? You know, there you go. You got all these warm temperatures again. And then there'll be another reinforcing shot of cold. There's that really warm day we were talking about, March 2nd and 3rd. Look at that, 80s and 90s in Oklahoma. Woohoo! Whoa, doggy. They were just what? They were around zero just a week or two ago, like we were, and now they're talking 90 degrees. Now, this is still a couple weeks away, though, so we'll have to see. And then right at the end, we see some more reinforcing cold trying to come down, and we'll have to see what happens on that. That's March 4th. So that's a long ways out there before we really get to that. All right. So what can you expect, really? What you're going to expect is a lot of ups and downs, a warming trend for the next week, lots of ups and downs over the next month to actually 3 months, we'll call it, where you'll see cold one day, warm the next day, rain showers, thunderstorms. We're getting towards spring. We're heading into it. We're going to see that. We still may see another, good sized snowstorm somewhere, potentially as a possibility. I would think there'd be at least one more left, at least some accumulating snows, at least one more left, I would think, maybe even two. We'll have to see on that. And then we'll start to see as we head towards the summer and then it's just going to get hot all the time. And then we're going to have to fight showers and thunderstorms, and we'll have to look at those all the time. All right. So that's your weather call for today. Look for your temperatures. We're going to pop back to this one real quick. It shows 61 today, 57, 69. Let's go for 70 on Wednesday. I'm excited about that one. 63 on Thursday, then dropping back off for temperatures for a couple of days there. Best chance of rain looks like Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday into Wednesday, really. And then another chance on Thursday into Friday. That's that next system coming in. We'll keep an eye on that. That's why I don't like these. This is kind of very generic. You and I looked at the fronts where they were and where the timing was. But it does give you a general idea of what we're looking at. All right. One more quick shot at the traffic cams. Let's see if there's any updates out there. There is the State Road 25 shot. Looks really good right now. There we go. State Road 43 starting to clear out. Very nice compared to what it was just 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. All right. Very nice. State Road 26 clearing out. And what I see a lot of is blue sky above with just some hazy cirrus clouds. Makes for some beautiful pictures, and it looks like the fog is right on the money. They stopped the fog advisory at 10 o'clock, and it looks like everybody's going to be clearing out this morning pretty nicely. All right, so that's it for weather-wise right now. Now let's talk a little bit of something I want to talk about, which is sports. Well, I like to talk weather too, I guess, right? So let's talk some of the sports that's been out and about. And there was a big basketball game over the weekend. And of course, Purdue's men's team is the biggest thing going, the biggest show in town right now. Right now, they were ranked 13th this week. They went out and they beat Nebraska on Tuesday. Then they came and went to Iowa and beat them on Saturday. So they beat two good opponents on the road this last week. And it was the fifth and sixth games of a 6 out of 8 road trip, basically. They came back for two single games in between. All right. So they were 13th ranked. They're now 21-4 overall. I'm guessing they're going to move up to like eighth this week because just about everybody in front of them lost one way or the other. So they're going to move back into the top 10 probably, maybe 10th, but I think 7th, 8th, ninth is where they're going to end up this week. And that's going to go good because the number one team in the country who will move to number one probably, and this comes out at noon today, the numbers will for the standings and the what we're looking at for overall rankings will come out, and we'll see that Michigan's going to be number one probably this afternoon because they had a couple big wins, and Arizona lost this week twice, not once but twice this week, and they were the number one team. So they'll fall down, but they'll probably only fall to 2, 3, 4 somewhere right in there. So, but Purdue will move up because just about everybody in front of them did lose in one way or another. They are now 11-3 in the Big Ten standings. They're going to have to win out. And even if they win out, they may still not win the Big Ten. You better get used to that. They can end up going 17-3 here and still lose because Michigan can go 18-2. They'd only lose to Purdue and win out. They're good to go, right? Now, here's one thing that I thought was kind of funny. I saw a couple of videos from the Michigan team talking smack about Purdue. I hope that gets to the Purdue players because that's not the thing you kind of do before a game, right? Especially one of the biggest games in the country this week for sure. It's probably the biggest game in the country. Be number one, two top 10 opponents playing each other on Tuesday night, right? But Purdue won Saturday 78-57 in Carver Hawkeye Arena, and they call it sold out because they hadn't sold a game out there in a while. So people came to see Purdue play. The win was Purdue's fourth straight. Remember, they had that 3-game losing streak, but then they won 4 again, and they started the season 17-1. So no worries here. The team is playing well. They're playing well in this stretch, which is a very hard gauntlet. They still have 3 really tough games in a row, and then to finish still 4 decent games. It's not like it's no slouch, right? You still got Wisconsin again after that. And you still have Northwestern, who almost tried to beat Michigan last week. So you still have some tough games left, not counting the 3 this week, which are basically starting off with Michigan, then rivalry game against Indiana, and then followed up next week with Michigan State. So tough little stretch here for sure, and the rest of the season's tough too. Purdue has now won 6 straight games against Iowa and 12 of the last 14 meetings with the Hawkeyes, and I always worry about them. I think it's because they beat us a few years ago when no one was expecting it, and I was like, so I've always worried about them beating us, but now you're talking 6 straight in a row, and it was Purdue's 100th win in the series against Iowa. Purdue has won the last 6 games by a combined 84 points. Man, Purdue has won 4 straight games at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and Purdue's longest road win streak in the series history is right now with 4 in a row there. Matt Painter became the 4th coach in Big Ten history with 250 league games. That's awesome. He joined Tom Izzo, Bob Knight, and, of course, Gene Cady. So 2 Purdue grads on there, 2 Purdue coaches. Purdue improved to 7-2 on the road and 6-2 on the road in Big Ten games. So you already have a winning record on the road, right? A lot of seasons you think to yourself, win all your home games, right? And go 5-5 on the road, right? That's a 15-5 season in the Big Ten. And that'll get you right in the mix of trying to win it. Well, you're 6-2 on the road. You have 2 to go. But one's at Northwestern, and I can't think of the other one off the top of my head. If you could win those, you could go 8-2 on the road. You've lost 1 game at home, though. So you've got to try to make up for that, right? Now, the win was Purdue's 8th quad 1 victory already this season, tied for 3rd most quad 1s nationally with only Duke and Michigan ahead of them, and both of them have double digits. Purdue has 4 road wins in Big Ten play by 15 or more points, and that is the most in school history. Wow. Rutgers, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Iowa, all by 15 or more. And Purdue has won 36 straight games when holding opponents to 59 or fewer points. Since the start of the 2014-15 season, Purdue is 99-3 when holding foes to 59 or fewer points. I don't remember those 3 games that they lost, and I don't want to. During Purdue's 4-game winning streak, Purdue has trailed for a total of an entire 7 minutes and 43 seconds. And the bench came through big time. Purdue's bench scored 31 points, going 10 of 22 from the field and 6 of 14 from 3-point range. And I got to watch this game, which was pretty cool. And there were a lot of open shots at the beginning of the game where they didn't make them. And then all of a sudden they started going in, and then the team just took off from there. They were already in the lead at that point, but it was good. Bench scored 31 points. Jakari Harris scored a career high 14, and he hit 3 threes in a row at one stretch. I remember that. And he's now what, 18 of 37 from deep. Woo, 486. Man, Jakari has come on a bit with the three-pointers, right? Cox, who got 2 quick fouls and Jakari came in for him, right? So Jakari took over, got the 14 points. Cox comes back in. He scores 14 points. He makes 4 of 9 three-pointers. He's shooting great. I hear the between the two of them, they only have 3 turnovers for the entire Big Ten season. That is amazing right there. Only 3 turnovers between the two of them. TKR tallied his 8th double-double this season. He had 11 rebounds in the first half. I mean, the second half, he did all the point scoring. He got 12 more points. In games during his career that he records a double-double, Purdue is 12-0. So my first bid is get TKR a double-double, get Fletch to get 4 threes, and they're almost guaranteed to win every single game, all right? Fletch tallied 12 points. He made 2 of his 5 from long range. I'd love to see him shoot 10 a game. That would be the mark. Maybe not the 17 he had in that one game, but 10 would be nice because he's going to make 4 of them, 4 to 5 probably, and occasionally 3. Over the last 4 games, he's now 16 of 36. He's shooting 444 during that time frame. And there was a lull game in there too somewhere. And before that, there were 2 big games. So he's had 1 bad game in like 6 out of 6. Big whoop-de-doo. That's part of shooting, right? Lawyer has 261 career three-pointers, and he's now 2nd in school history. The record is 281, so he needs 20 of them to pass Carson Edwards by the end of the season. And Braden Smith had 5 points. I mean, he wasn't even trying to shoot. He didn't need to. He ended a streak of 13 straight double-digit scoring games that he had, but had 12 assists and 7 rebounds. I thought he's going for the triple-double there towards the second half, but they were up so big, he was just doling out assists everywhere. Smith moved into 6th place on the NCAA career assists list with 980, and he's just 3 assists to move into the top 5, passing Keith Jennings at 983. It marks his 17th career 10-assist game, and over the last 20 years, the second most 10-assist games among Big Ten Conference players, with Cassius Winston and Xavier Simpson ahead of him at this point. So there you go. On Tuesday against Michigan, Purdue will host the nation's #1 ranked team in Mackey Arena for the first time since January 8th, 2005. And it looks like they lost that game. It was Illinois. They lost 68-59. It will mark the 9th time the nation's #1 team has actually come to Mackey. And it will, however, be only the 2nd time that Purdue will be ranked during that time frame. So they were 1-7 during that time frame, right? But they were only ranked once themselves, so the teams weren't quite as strong as this one is, and we'll see what happens with that, all right? So a lot of great things happened over the weekend with that ball game and that big ball game on tap for tomorrow against the #1 team in the country. When I go and look at some of the stats, just to give you the KenPom numbers on that. Now, Purdue has moved up on the KenPom numbers, which is great. They had fallen off pretty mightily after starting the season, basically #1. Michigan is #1. They are number 4th offensively and number 1 defensively in the country. Purdue is now 8th. They are number 2 offensively, so their offense is slightly better. But their defense is 19th, which is better than it was, right? It's been getting better again. After that 3-game fall off, they had dropped to like 30th. Well, now they're back up to 19th. And there's a big gap between them and Connecticut, who's at number 9, of like 2 full points, 2.5 full points. So there's a big drop off from the 8th team to the 9th team right now, even though Connecticut's 24-2 and Gonzaga's 25-2. They're still, ratings wise, when you look at how efficient the offense and how efficient the defenses are behind them. That doesn't always lead to wins, though, right? But when you look down these records, most of the time it's pretty close to what those ratings show. So that's just something to be an indication. But Michigan's at like the highest the ratings ever been. So this is a top-notch team. You know, we went from the season starting off as Purdue is the clear team to possibly win the national championship to, wow, we've got 5 or 6 great teams out there, right? So, and Purdue kind of on the outer edges are. They're one of the great teams after their 3-game losing streak. So this is a year where it could be pretty much up there, but maybe only one of that group of 5 to 8 teams is going to win it, right? It's going to be hard pressed for somebody else to get pushed in there because they're going to have to all play one of those 5 to 8 teams sometime during the tournament when it comes. It should be a really exciting tournament, especially when you get to the grade 8 and down to the final 4. A lot of really action-packed, really good games, and hopefully they all pan out really good where they're playing. They get to that point and nobody has a big upset or anything along those lines during that time frame, because that would be pretty exciting. That is for sure. All right, so what's happening news-wise around Indiana? I'm just popping over to the WLFI webpage. Um, there's some Medicaid restructuring bill draws a pushback because they don't see the savings in it, and they've restructured things. So some people are upset about that. A bill pitched as a fix for Indiana's troubled pathway Medicaid program drew emotional testimony and triggered pointed exchanges as discussions around long-term care continued Thursday in the Senate Appropriations Committee. Hey, I'm thinking about long-term care someday down the road, 30 years from now or so. Well, it's something we want to make sure we take care of our old folks, not just because of me, you know what I mean? Our grandmas and grandpas, we want to make sure we take care of them really well. Indiana organ donors save over 1,200 lives. And my wife gave a couple years ago. Actually, it was during COVID. She gave a kidney and hopefully saved, and that person's still alive. We know where they are. We don't know them or anything, but that was pretty cool that she did that, and I'm so proud of her. She'll tell you it was no big deal, but it was a big deal. So if you are an organ donor, don't be afraid to go ahead and do that. And a lot of us, if something happens to us, would love to give our organs to somebody else to help them. Let's see what else is going on. West Lafayette announces holiday trash collection schedule. Are you excited about that? I'm excited about the trash collection schedule. Let's look at it real quick here. I got to click on it. We got to see if there's something weird on here. Is there anything here? There will be no yard waste collection Monday. That's what they're talking about. So it's just today is what they're talking about. So they're gonna pick up your trash tomorrow if they were supposed to pick it up today. Lots of basketball going on around the city with our high schoolers, and they're getting ready for their tournaments coming up. There was a South Bend man who pled guilty to drug charges in Tippecanoe County this last week. Some other big news: Don Lemon set to appear in federal court in Minnesota on charges stemming from church protest. That's what happens when you put yourself on video and you tell everybody you're going to do something and then act like you're free to do whatever you want to while you're breaking the law, right? Well, that happens. I'm sure they're not going to do anything to him. They're going to slap him on the wrist, but yeah, just goes to show video is everywhere. Don't copy this video and send it to the feds, would you? I probably just got in trouble doing that. All right, let's look at some of the things to do. There was a Father Dollar dance on Saturday, right, on Valentine's Day. I think that went very well for a lot of the people around. So maybe you were able to get to that. I think a couple people I know from church actually ended up at that. So that was there. And there's a construction pre-apprenticeship program going on right now. This is a new one on the community calendar. This is on Star City News. Learning Network Construction Freedom Celebration. This is a historic auto club. It says the Learning Network of Clinton County in Frankfort is now enrolling for their construction pre-apprenticeship program that begins in March. Earn industry-recognized credentials such as NCCER, CORE, and OSHA 10 as you take your first step toward a registered apprenticeship. Registration is open till February 20th. And while some people, like myself, see AI coming on and starting to take over all the jobs, there are going to be some jobs that just won't go away. This would be one of them, right? The hands-on kind of stuff. The hands-on where you're working on the cars, the hands-on when you're working on the AC, the hands-on where you're digging somebody's well for them. That kind of stuff is not going to disappear. But a lot of our in-between stuffs, people sitting at counters, talking to people, that stuff's going to disappear. A lot of your computer stuff's going to disappear because now they've got equipment that can do it, AI that can do it very quickly. So this is something you could definitely get into if you're wanting to look into working on vehicles. Definitely in Frankfort it looks like it's coming pretty soon. What did I say? It was in March. All right. The maple sugaring event is still on. This is the Delphi Taste of Mardi Gras. Woo, it's a Taste of Mardi Gras in Delphi. The Tippecanoe County Historical Association and Warren Peace Company will be hosting their annual maple sugaring event Saturday, March 7th and 8th at Fort Wiatnon from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. both days. This free event features homemade pancakes, sugar harvest, and syrup rendering, along with historical reenactments and raffles. So, the maple sugaring event, all right? Nice, at Fort Weotnon. That's out on River Road, if you don't remember, March 7th and 8th from 10 to 4 p.m. All right, that'll be kind of fun. That's a new one. Didn't see that one before. Community calendar also says this: look for creative connections out of the Oxford House Recovery Program. Indiana can be rather gloomy and cold this time of the year. Don't we all know that, right? Wednesday, February 25th, so coming up here just 10 days away or so, from 2:30 to 4:30 at Traditions of Lafayette Senior Living Community, the Creative Connections event hopes to help adults 55 and older recognize the signs of loneliness in senior adults and how to address it through socialization. So they're going to talk about socialization, how to get through things when you're by yourself, and that's pretty exciting. On Wednesday, the 25th, from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the Traditions of Lafayette. We talked about the a cappella classes coming February 16th. That is today. Just do not miss them today. If you have an interest in learning to sing a cappella, now is your chance to learn. Every Monday evening from 7 to 8:30 p.m., starting February 16th, today through March 23rd, you can receive 6 weekly group voice lessons completely free from the Typica Notes director, Ariel Cudworth. Following completion of lessons, you'll perform for family and friends. That's the Typica Notes. There you go. The address is listed as 211 Knox Drive, door number 8 on that, door number 8. And you can find that on the community calendar on Star City for them there. So that's what they're looking at on that front. So all kinds of activities going on in Lafayette. All kinds of news in the world's been happening. We've got plenty of great sports coming, not only tomorrow night, but we had some over the weekend. It's an exciting time of the year with the men's fighting it out. And the ladies, I think, played a pretty good game this weekend also, and they've been getting better and better. I'm excited to see how they're going to play for next year for sure. Might take some of the grandsons over there to one of the ladies' games this year before the end of the season. Hopefully we can get a chance to get over there, and maybe you'll get a chance to do the same thing too. So that would be exciting if I can do that too. So hopefully you're able to get out and about and try to hit some of those. All right, so let's go back to quick little numbers in the last 4 minutes or so that we have here together today. And we're going to kind of hit what we can on numbers. And what we have right now is 41 degrees. The fog advisory is just about ready to be done. When we look at the traffic cameras, everything's looking pretty good right now. We come back to the north. Which direction we go? There we go. State Road 38. That's clear all the way up to 26. It looks good. Lots of blue kind of gives you the indication there's some fog in the air, but really visibilities are spectacular. We're back to unrestricted, and there we are on State Road 43, and you go all the way up to Remington, just a little bit more hesitant there and hanging on at State Road 18, and there you go, Junction 231, a little bit more still there. So that's what it looks like, at least on that front. Now, close in, I say let's go take a look, see if we got any more. Let's see if we got a visual that'll help us see anything. And more of the same. I can see some shadows on the ground from the clouds. So there's a little batch of cumulus clouds coming through right through here and here through central Indiana. Lafayette is right there. There's not much, lots of high clouds in different places. So that's basically what we're going to see today. And then we zoom out a little bit, we can kind of see that. We'll put it in a loop and we'll go back to let's change to the IR real quick so we can see what it looks like. There you go. And then we kind of zip along, and you can see the high clouds streaming in, right? And then we saw a little batch of low clouds right there. Lowish clouds anyway, that are passing through, a couple in central Illinois, and then just a lot of this wispy stuff. And you notice the Rocky Mountains way out here to the west. See how they're streaming right off the top of the mountains? The tops are right there. See how that line never moves? None of those spots move, but the clouds keep going that way. That's kind of what you're seeing all the way here. And they can get all the way to Indiana at times. Sure enough, that's way up in the upper atmosphere. You're talking 10,000 feet and above. And so a lot of times you'll be able to get those all the way to Indiana. So we'll call it a mixture of clouds today, but generally it'll feel like it's kind of sunny out there. I'm sure there'll be a couple spots here or there where you see some cloudiness, like with this batch that comes in over the Mississippi River, and it'll feel a little darker out there. And so will we make it to another degree or two warmer? It's all going to be dependent on how much of this stays together as it gets to us. You notice it's falling apart as it gets to us. So that'll be one of the things we'll have to watch out for. But generally speaking, we look pretty good. Let's go to the HER. Let's see what the new HER's numbers are. The 14Z's in, but there's only 16% of it. So let's look at the 13Z. and then we'll zoom in real close so we can see the temperatures. What it says again, here we are at 49, 53, 54, 55, still showing 55 to 56 with Rensselaer right around 60 degrees. So the 60s wrapping in just to our north up here, just north of us right there by this afternoon. And this then it kind of hang on pretty warm overnight, right? And then it starts to warm back up again tomorrow, as we're only in the 30s overnight tonight. When we go back to that 12Z where we can go out farther, we show the temperatures warming up during the day tomorrow again, back up in near 50, right? And then by tomorrow night, look at that, it's going to be warmer at midnight probably than during the day tomorrow, even though we're going to be close to 50 during the day tomorrow. And then some warmth comes in for Wednesday with that next advancing front starting to come in. Let's look at that precipitation on there again real quick before we get you out of here. And we see the scattered showers coming in. All right. So this was the closer in look. We didn't really look at it. Here is Tuesday morning. So there's nothing happening today. Tuesday morning going on. There's a couple little sprinkles. Lafayette right here. Remember where Lafayette is. There's some sprinkles in the mix there. That's just not much to worry about. Then there's a little bit of light rain potential. This would be Tuesday afternoon, right around, we'll call it the evening. We'll call it 7 o'clock. Get a chance for some rain to pop through. Very light. We're not getting any of the real intense darkness and heavier precipitation out of this. We're getting more of the light variety. Just some sprinkles off and on, a little line of shower here or there that will pop up as we get into Wednesday night. Now we're talking 2 in the morning, and by the morning, there you go, right around 11 to 12 Zulu, which is going to be 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, 6 to 8 o'clock. We're going to have a little frontal system pass through, and that's when your best chance of maybe a heavier shower will be. That will be Wednesday morning. So going to school, the kids in the morning will be running into some rain, it looks like, on Wednesday morning. All right, guys. So that's it for now. We are done on Monday, February 16th. Temperatures are on the rise. We push towards spring. I think the groundhog was kind of rushing it too much, saying there was going to be winter for 6 months, because it sure won't feel like it to us, especially after we've been so cold for so long. So you have a new sports and what's happening locally here in Lafayette. Let's Talk Lafayette is out for now. See you tomorrow.